Good day to all our viewers out there. My name is Heinrich Neetling and welcome to Mathematical Literacy. In today's lesson, we'll be focusing on the topic of inflation as well as on interest. Now, just before I start with our lesson, let me share something quite interesting with you. Did you know that inflation can impact interest rates? Yes, it can. So interest rates and inflation tend to move in the same direction. So when inflation increases, banks normally will increase the interest rate to encourage people to spend less and save more money. So there we can see how inflation can impact interest rates. So what is it that I'll expect of you in today's lesson? Let us quickly go to our lesson objectives. So first of all, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to define the following terms, right? Interest, interest rate, simple interest, compound interest, as well as inflation. Also important for today's lesson is that you will be able to perform calculations involving simple and compound interest through manual calculations. Very important to note, through manual calculations without the use of any formulae, right? And then also you must be able to perform calculations involving inflation. Now let's quickly move on with our lesson. This is more or less what you can expect in today's lesson, right? We'll start off by looking at simple interest. Thereafter, we'll continue with compound interest. And lastly, we'll focus on the topic of inflation. Now, let me quickly check what you should know at this moment in time. So here are important terminology that you should familiarize yourself with. So what is interest? I've indicated here that interest is the money earned or on investments, or it can be extra money that you pay, all right, towards the repayment of a loan at a particular rate, okay? That is interest. So what is interest rate? An interest rate is the percentage charged at a particular rate towards an investment, or for that matter, it can be a loan as well. Then I also indicated here that simple interest is interest charged, right, or earned only on the original amount. Now, the original amount we also refer to as your principal amount, resulting in the same fee every time. Okay, so it's key to note, it's the interest charged on, or it can be interest earned on the original amount, the principal amount. Okay, then also important is compound interest. So what is compound interest? It's interest charged on an amount due, but including interest charged to date, right? So we can say it's interest upon interest. So in other words, right, it's interest calculated on the accumulated or the total amount of money. In example, your principal amount, your starting amount, plus, very important to note, any interest accrued. Okay, as I've indicated, that's interest upon interest. Then what is inflation? Inflation is a measure of the change in the purchasing power of money, and that's normally over time, a period of 1 year. Okay, so it's a measure of change in the purchasing power of money over time, right? And then I also indicated here the inflation rate is the percentage increase in the price of consumer goods relative to the prices 1 year previously. Okay, so that's important terminology that you should be familiar with. Now let's quickly do a short practice, okay? And I want you to do this with me. Please work with me on this one. So I ask here question 1. What is the formula? So we are looking for a formula for calculating inflation rate. Okay, so I'll say, and I'm going to write this down for you. So we are saying that inflation rate, right, equals, so where we take the change in price, and that will be during 1 year, normally over a period of 1 year, right? And I'll divide that by the initial or original price, right, of an item, multiply by 100 over 1, or 100% for that matter. So the inflation rate is the change in price during 1 year divided by the original or the initial price multiplied by 100. Okay, question number 2, define, right? I must define the term simple interest. Okay, so if you've listened carefully to what I said when we opened this lesson, I indicated that simple interest is interest, right, that is earned, or it can be interest that is charged, right, because it can be a loan for that matter as well, right, okay, on the principal amount only, right, principal amount due only. So remember, we also indicated that fees remain the same normally, right? So the interest per year remain the same. Okay, so that's important to note there. Okay, so it's interest earned, or it can be charged on the principal amount due only. Fees remain the same. Then our third question. State whether the following is true or false. Interest is the amount of money that is either earned or charged. So in this case, that is definitely true, right? It is money that is either earned or charged. Then also important here, question number 4, choose the correct answer. The period or initial amount or inflation is the length of time that the money is invested or borrowed. So in this case, the correct answer will be the period, right? The period is the length of time that the money is invested or borrowed for. Okay, so let's quickly look at other important words. I indicated that interest depends on the following aspects, and that will be your interest rate, the period, and then also the initial or the principal amount. Also important to note is that the principal amount is the original amount of money initially invested or borrowed, meaning that is your starting amount. Then the time period, that's the length of time for which the money is invested, right? The length of time for which the money is invested. All right, and then last I indicated here, accumulated or total amount. It's the final amount which is made up of the principal amount plus your interest. Okay, I hope that's all clear to you. Okay, guys, let us take a quick break. After this advert break, we'll continue with our lesson. See you now.